I'm Christelle from Diabetes Strong, and this video is all about insulin injections. I'll show you where you can inject insulin, talk about insulin injection rotations, as well as insulin injections into muscle. And to top it off, I'll give you 3 tips for optimal insulin injections. If you inject insulin to manage your diabetes, you might be taking up to 6, 10, 12 injections a day. I live with type 1 diabetes. I have since 1997, and on average, I inject insulin about 6 times a day. And where you inject insulin is important. So this is something that we need to talk about, because not only are there certain areas that are more ideal than others, it's also important that you rotate where you inject your insulin. Insulin is designed to be injected into fatty tissue, whether or not you deliver it through injection or through an insulin pump. So when the pharmaceutical companies tell you that the onset of your, for example, Humalog or Novolog is 15 minutes, that's based on the assumption that you're injecting into fatty tissue. Same thing with when they say it's going to peak or the durations or how long it's going to stay in the body. All of that, all those numbers are still based on the assumption that you're injecting into fatty tissue, not directly into muscle. The best injection sites for insulin are a variety of places across your body, but they all need to be easy to reach and have enough body fat. I also say the leaner you are, the more likely it is that you need to pinch your skin to pop off that body fat so that you won't be injecting directly into muscle. Overall, there are 6 places that it's recommended to inject rapid-acting insulin, also called mealtime insulin. So the ideal place is to use your belly fat, as belly fat can absorb rapid-acting insulin the most consistently. We stay on the belly. There's also the side, so your love handles, if you can pinch some fat there. You turn around, there's also your lower back. Again, if you can pinch some fat there. We can also use our arms, the side or the back of their arms. And then there's your glutes or your butt. So sort of on the upper side as well as down on the side of your glutes. And then finally we have your thighs. So it can either be the fat on the inside of your thighs or on the outside of your thighs. Generally, it's considered to have a little bit of slower absorption when you use your thighs. However, if you exercise after injecting insulin, it might increase how fast that insulin is absorbed. So these are the 6 places that are most likely to have enough body fat that you can inject comfortably using a pen or syringe. You most likely have your favorite place. I know I do, but it's really important that you rotate where you inject your insulin and don't just inject the same place over and over again. It's important because as you inject insulin, you're actually causing a little bit of damage to the skin as well as to the tissue below your skin. And that needs time to heal. So when you inject over and over again to the same area, it might create scar tissue. And you might not be able to see this scar tissue from the surface, but it's there underneath the skin. And scar tissue will significantly impact your body's ability to absorb insulin. So you might end up seeing that your insulin needs keep climbing, not necessarily because your body needs more insulin, but because the scar tissue is interfering with your body's ability to absorb the insulin that you're injecting. A very low practical way to solve for this could simply be to switch from side to side of your body when you do your injections. So for example, breakfast is on this side, lunch is on this side. That way, the more that you rotate your sites, the less likely you are to build up significant amounts of scar tissue, and also thereby you reduce the risk of having absorption issues when it comes to insulin injections. And if you want to learn more about rotating your sites, check out this video I did specifically on that. I'll leave a link to that up here. As I said up front, insulin is meant to be injected into fatty tissue, but can insulin also be injected into muscle? Short answer is yes, but there's a big but here. It should be intentional, and you have to understand the consequences of injecting into muscle tissue. Also, this is only for rapid-acting insulin. Long-acting insulin, so your basal insulin, should never be injected into muscle tissue. Injecting your rapid-acting insulin directly into muscle is going to change how fast that insulin enters your bloodstream, and thereby also how quickly it's going to start lowering your blood sugars. That means that the onset, so how quickly the insulin enters your bloodstream, the peak, when it's at its most effective, as well as the duration, so how long it stays in your bloodstream, will change. And you might also find that the injection is going to sting a little bit more. You might feel some pressure at the injection site. Sometimes I'll do injections directly into my muscle. Mostly it's if my blood sugars are really high and I want to speed up the process. So if I want to get my blood sugars down a little faster. You might also want to use this strategy, for example, if you had a pump failure, so insulin pump failure, and you need rapid acting insulin in your system very fast. if you see that your blood sugars are spiking, or if you're, for example, taking steroids for conditions like Addison disease. But if this is something that you're considering, please have a conversation with your medical team first. Now let's get to my 3 tips for optimal insulin injections. So the first one is to ensure that insulin is actually coming out of your pen or your syringe. And the way that we do that is with an air shot. What you want to do is grab your pen, attach a needle, flick it a few times, dial it up 1 to 2 units, and simply press the plunger. Make sure that insulin is coming. See that? It's a few drops coming out. That means that insulin is flowing. Why do we want to do that? Well, injecting, nothing or injecting air won't hurt you, but it won't lower your blood sugars either. And my next tip is to inject insulin where you have easy access to fatty tissue and don't inject through clothing. So the way that I do it is that, for example, let's say I'm wearing a long dress, but sleeveless, I'll inject in my arms. If I'm wearing shorts, I might inject in my thighs. If I'm wearing a long sleeve, I might inject in my belly. I try to make it as easy as possible for myself. And I don't inject through clothing because the idea of those small clothing particles getting stuck in the needle and thereby be injected into my tissue, quite frankly, grosses me out. And the last tip of the day is to change out your needle or your syringe frequently. I know that not everyone changes out their pen needle or the syringe every time they do an injection, even though it is recommended. But if you start to feel pain, for example, from your injections, it might be because that needle is becoming dull. So change out your needles more frequently. This will also reduce the risk of infections, and it might increase your overall injection comfort. And that is all I have to say about insulin injections. If you have any tips that you'd like to add, please leave me a comment down below this video. While you're at it, if you like this video, please also give it a like. If you like my content, if you'd like to see more from me, remember to subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications. That is that little bell. That way you'll be informed whenever I post new content. Thank you so much for watching.